All right, Unit 6, Video 1, we are going to work on evaluating some inverse trigonometric functions here. Make sure you have your Video 1 note sheet ready. I'm going to try 4 examples with you, and then I'd like you to pause the video and try the next 4 on your own. And then I'm going to do another 4 example, and then you can finish up the worksheet when the video finishes. So I'm doing 8, and you're going to do 8, and you need to have all of those ready for us to take a look at tomorrow in class. All right, so to evaluate these, we're actually going to be working backwards, and we have to think about working backwards as we do that. But we have to establish a few things first. So for number 1, I've got arc sine of negative 1/2 equals y. So I'm trying to find the value of y. And what I have to remember is that my sine inverse, or my arc sine, is restricted to quadrants 1 and 4. But because my value is negative 1/2, then I'm going to be thinking about the values in quadrant 4. Quadrant 1 is positive for sine inverse. So I need to now decide what angle value, I'm going to write this down, what angle gives the value that they tell us. So in other words, in this case, what angle gives us a negative 1/2 or a 1/2 for sine? And the angle that does that is a 30-degree angle, except I want a 30-degree angle in the 4th quadrant. Now, I know your first instinct is, well, the 30-degree angle in quadrant 4 is going to be 330 degrees, okay, which is not wrong, except my restrictions, my range restrictions are from negative pi over 2 to positive pi over 2. Okay, so to do this, I need to think about going backwards, or negative, in the negative direction, rather than wrapping all the way around to the 3rd quadrant, or to the 4th quadrant. And the reason I cannot wrap from the 1st quadrant going around the circle through the 3rd quadrant is that none of our values exist in the 3rd quadrant at all. So I need to skip that, and I have to go in reverse. So around the circle, I have to go this way to get to my negative values. So I will either be going positive or negative, but I will never, ever, ever enter the 3rd quadrant. Therefore, my answer is going to be negative pi over 6. Let's try another one. We'll keep working through these. For this one, I have to think about my cosine. Well, my cosine values are restricted to quadrants 1 and quadrant 2. Because this is positive, I'm going to be thinking about quadrant 1. If it were negative, I'd be in quadrant 2. So you only have 2 options. You're left with very few choices to make here. You narrow it down to 2, and then you pick the one that matches the SIGN, which is positive in this case. So now I'm asking myself, what angle gives us root 3 over 2 for a cosine? And the value that gives us root 3 over 2 is again a 30-degree angle in quadrant 1. So a 30-degree angle in quadrant 1 is just pi over 6. All right, how about tan inverse of positive 1? Our tangent's restricted to quadrants 1 and quadrant 4, but because my 1 is positive, I'm going to be in quadrant 1. If I'm in quadrant 1 and I'm thinking about what value gives me a 1, what angle gives me a 1, I'm going to think that 1 over 1 means that my sine and my cosine are exactly the same, because tangents defined as sine over cosine or y over x. So I'm left with the values being the same, and that only occurs at our pi over 4. All right, next up, I've got another sine. Again, sine is restricted to be between quadrants 1 and quadrant 4. Okay, but I have a 0 value. So I think, when is sine ever 0? And sine is 0 on one of our quadrantals. Well, we have 3 quadrantal angles that fall between quadrants 4 and 1. We have down here at 0 and up here. So pi over 2, 0, and negative pi over 2. But I want the sine value to be 0. So if I look at the ordered pair up here, it's 0, comma 1. This one is 1, comma 0. And down at the bottom, it's 0, negative 1. Well, sine is my y value, so this has to occur at 0 degrees or 0 radians. Please pause the video and try numbers 5 through 8 now. I recommend you do this now and then continue the video so you can do the back side of the worksheet. Okay, assuming your whole front of your worksheet's done, this is going to go great. So here I've got a number 9. It says the tangent of the arc cosine of 3/4. Well, the arc cosine of 3/4, if you just cover up the tangent for a moment, so we'll cover that up, and all we're going to look at is the arc cosine of 3/4. Now, none of our values give us 3/4 around our unit circle, so I'm actually not even worried about what the angle is, but I'm going to draw a triangle that references this. So because my value of cosine is positive, I'm in the first quadrant, and I'm going to draw and label my triangle accordingly. So I've got 3 as my adjacent and 4 as my hypotenuse. Well, now I actually want to reconsider what the tangent is of this exact same picture. So this comes down to being an angle. I don't really care what the angle is, but I know it's actually an angle. So now I want tangent of the same angle. To find tangent, I need to find the opposite side of the triangle. So I will use the Pythagorean theorem. 3 squared plus y squared equals 4 squared, leaving me with y squared equals 7, or the square root of 7. So my tangent is the square root of 7 over 3. Let's do the next one. My arc cosine of 1/4. So once again, I will draw a triangle that matches a positive cosine with 1/4. I really want to find the sine of this angle value. I'll call it alpha. So the sine of this angle, I need to find the opposite again. So I have 1 squared plus y squared equals 4 squared. So y will equal the square root of 15. So my sine is root 15 over 4. Let's try the arc cosine of pi over 4. Well, once again, I'm going to ignore this outside part, and I'm going to start on the inside. And that says, what's the cosine of pi over 4? And hopefully we're confident enough to say the cosine of pi over 4 is root 2 over 2. Well, now let's get rid of my scribbles and say, well, what's the arc cosine of root 2 over 2? Well, the arc cosine of root 2 over 2 asks the question, where did the angle, or what angle gives us root 2 over 2? And the angle that gives us root 2 over 2 for cosine is back to pi over 4. So please notice that on the numbers 9 and 10, our answer came out to be a ratio of sides, root 7 over 3, root 15 over 4. However, on number 11, my answer is actually an angle measure, and that's the difference of the order that we have here. Make sure that's very clear to yourself. The next one says, well, what's the tangent when we have negative pi over 4? Well, that would tell me that I'm in the fourth quadrant here, and I'm looking at negative pi over 4 is my angle. So that would be a -1, +1, and a square root of 2, which makes my tangent to be -1. Well, then the question really is asking, what's the arc tangent of -1? What angle produces -1? Negative pi over 4. And that's my final answer. Please try numbers 13 to 16 on your own, and you can bring that to class tomorrow and we'll continue this discussion.